Nobody wants to.
What does that mean, let babies go?
Let them die. Let them die before they get born and can hurt.
Well, the thing is, God says thou shalt not murder. We can't unjustly, intentionally kill someone.
We don't think that fetuses that who've never breathed or had a heartbeat are people.
Well, that's discrimination. You're discriminating based on age and development.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, and so that's evil. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be a bigot towards certain people.
Do you think maybe it could be evil to prevent people from having decent lives?
Well, the thing is, we don't know what kind of lives. We don't.
People who are already born.
We don't.
What about that?
Well, we should love everybody.
Fuck you, and I'm sad that I have to share the world with somebody like you.
Well, that's hateful. You should love people.
Yeah, and I just do not stand for this whatsoever.
You know.
This is.
So you like murdering babies, is what you're saying?
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Do you have a better argument than that?
You can't argue.
Do you have a rational argument?
Why do you think that it is your decision? It's the woman's decision.
The woman needs to love her baby. The woman makes the wrong decision when she murders her baby, right? There's good decisions and bad decisions,
the baby
right?
Isn't developed. And
well, don't be a bigot. Don't discriminate based on development. Don't do that.
Would you rather
love everybody?
Would you
no
rather,
matter what they look like?
Would you rather have the baby?
No, don't. Let the guy do his thing.
Get on Broadway, buddy. You like the cops over here. We don't like your kind. You look too smooth to be a bum. You got the whole voice speaker with the camera set up. You ain't got no story.
Don't discriminate based on age and development.
Your tune sucks.
Based on age?
We
yeah,
predict
because you yourself used to live inside the body of your mother.
You start with some anti-gay shit.
Guys.
What you stand for?
Guys.
You're fake.
This is just.
You're fake.
He has the right to speak on his
no
opinions just like anyone else. You can't
Exactly.
define
And
that.
I have the right.
And he has the right to
speak on my
debate you.
opinion.
You have the right to debate him, and he has the right to debate you. You don't have to agree.
On a holiday like this, you're fake.
You're
too smooth to
just
be
keep
on the
doing what you're
streets
doing.
with all these
Yeah, man.
gadgets and shit. Where your daddy at? With the cuffs and everything in the precinct? Get up Broadway with the bullshit. All we want is music.
Fuck you.
We don't need no hater.
You don't have a good argument, man. Give me a good argument. Give me a good argument.
We don't need that hater.
Yeah, man, you look really dumb right now.
You're not the real deal.
Oh my God, I have no faith.
Why?
So why do you discriminate against children in the womb?
Because I don't think they're children yet.
But that's discrimination, right? Because everybody has to live in that stage of life.
No, sweetie. If they're people, I'll do anything I can.
These are people. They're little humans. People are humans, right? They're little humans who are living where every human needs to live.
They're not born. They're not really anybody yet.
But that's an arbitrary, discriminatory thing you just come up with. Yeah, it is, because everybody has to live there. That's the normal process of growing as a human, and you're saying, okay, I've decided that at this stage of human life, now they don't have rights. Now they're not treated as a person. So you decide at a certain point in the normal process of growing, somebody doesn't have rights.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so that's wrong, and that's evil.
Let me ask you this: when you were like maybe 2.5 or maybe 6, how many of your own decisions did you get to make? Some, for sure.
Yeah,
Some, for sure. But like, and I don't know your family, but let's say you're 6.5 and you say, I don't want to go to school. I'm not going to school. Okay, then what happens?
Well, if you have good parents, they will force you to study.
They will override your decision because you're too little to make a good decision.
Yeah, you're under the authority of your parents at that stage of your life. And the thing is, but we need to listen to what God says, and God says, thou shalt not murder. And God doesn't give parents the authority to murder their children.
I'm not interested in God, so we can't talk.
Oh, well, well, we can, because we're operating with different presuppositions about reality. Your presuppositions about reality are that God does not exist, I guess?
It's not God's decision, it's my position.
So how do you know about God? Where do you learn about God?
That's a really good question.
So you believe that there is some kind of deity?
You know, I haven't made my mind up about that.
Yeah. Well, we can't know anything unless we have revelation from the all-knowing being Yahweh to tell us what's actually true. Because we're not omniscient and we could always be wrong, right?
Yeah.
So we shouldn't put faith in ourselves and our limited, non-omniscient minds.
I'll hand that back to you.
Yeah, so I'm not putting my faith in myself.
You're putting your faith in a God you don't know exists.
Well, the thing is, knowledge is justified true belief, and I can't be justified in believing anything to be true unless he does exist. It's a transcendental argument, and that's proof of his existence.
It's
He
not
must
proof of
exist.
his
He must
existence, that's
exist.
belief.
No, well, proof requires belief.
But
You have to believe in order to prove something,
No, you don't.
right? You have, like, knowledge
Yeah.
is justified true belief. So in order to know something, you have to believe it's true. You have to be justified in believing it's true,
Yes.
and it has to be true in order to know
it doesn't
something.
have to be true. It
So-
has to be the best you can do.
So you're saying you can know something that's not true?
Of course.
Well, I'd say that's a really messed up view, like
Well,
definition of
remember when
knowledge.
we didn't know about gravity? No, you don't. But I mean, you know, there was a time when we didn't know about it, right?
Well, I think people knew about it. They
No,
knew
they
that
didn't know
they knew
about
that
it.
every time they
The
drop
guy
something, it falls to the
Galileo
ground.
dropped a thing, and nobody knew why it went on the ground. But he figured it out. But before that, nobody understood it. It
Yeah.
was there, but we
Yeah.
didn't understand it.
Yeah, they didn't. They understood it better. Yeah.
They didn't understand it. They just lived around the fact of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so they didn't have justified true belief about it.
They
They didn't-
believed in it. They just didn't know why it happened.
Well, you have to define gravity in this conversation.
Okay.
Like they believed in the fact that things fall to the ground when you drop them. They
knew
believed that, but they didn't believe propositions about like why that happens, right? So they didn't.
No, they didn't know.
Yeah. So they. Yeah.
So they said God did it. And that's what we always say when we don't understand any more about something than we could.
Well,
I mean, maybe we don't know everything.
Well, the thing is, how do you prove that gravity exists? How do you know for sure that gravity
Drop
exists?
something.
Yeah, but
It's easy.
couldn't that be an illusory experience that you're having?
It could, but
Yeah, so that you don't know
every
that gravity
time
exists.
Any of us right here on this corner drop something that falls to the ground. It could be an illusion.
Yeah.
It could all really be going up there, except that when we pick it up, it sure seems like the same thing that it was before.
Yeah, but what if our experience is just all illusory? Maybe you're deceiving yourself because you don't know.
What we call gravity is a mass Earth-wide illusion, right?
Yeah, or
everybody is making a big mistake.
and maybe the reason that things fall to the ground is because there's magical genies that pull them to the ground when people release them. You know, maybe that's the nature of
Maybe
reality.
that's what it
But you,
is.
but you don't. So you're not justified in belief. So you're
We
not.
can count on it, so I don't care why we think it.
Well, you can't count on it because you could be deceiving yourself, right?
Oh, then everybody else could too. We could all be deceiving ourselves together.
Well, it depends on what you're putting your faith in. You can't deceive yourself if you're putting faith in what's revealed from the all-knowing being to tell us what's true about reality.
God doesn't have to tell me that if I do this, the thing is going to fall down. I don't need anyone to tell me that.
Well, God needs to tell you that humans exist and that He created the world.
I can
and that
see
he,
us. I can see these
but,
people.
but you're not justified in
God didn't tell me that.
But you're not justified in believing that because that could be wrong. You could be deceiving yourself.
It
You're putting
could.
your faith
It could.
in limited consciousness for truth instead of putting your faith in what's revealed from unlimited consciousness for
I'm
truth.
putting my
But
faith
what
in
is
my
your
own
justification
experience.
for believing in a higher being?
Because
Like, how
the
do you know?
the justification is the fact that I could not be justified in believing anything to be true unless He does exist to tell me what's true about reality, because He knows everything. He has all the facts in His mind. I don't. So I could always be wrong, but He must have them and reveal them to me in order for knowledge to exist. If He does not exist and if He does not do that, then knowledge is impossible.
I'm tracking your train of thought.
Yes.
But we have to go back to the original question. Like, how do you know that there is a God?
Well, knowledge is justified true belief, okay?
But knowledge is passed.
So I'm just
But knowledge is also passed down like generationally. Like I learned what I know from people that are older than me, not from like a higher power.
well, you can't be justified in believing that people exist unless you have revelation from the higher power that He created other people.
We can see that.
Right.
See, I know
So, yeah,
she exists.
she's
Like,
touching
No, because she could be an illusion of your consciousness,
But
right?
then how do you know that God isn't just an
Then is she
illusion?
also
So when you say no, you're
I'm not
saying
saying no. I'm just asking. You know?
right.
Yeah.
When you say the word like no, as in knowledge. So
Yeah.
how do you know? So I'm saying, so that's basically saying, how are you justified in believing this to be true? Basically. So my justification for believing that God exists is the objective truth that if He did not exist,
Yeah.
I could not be justified in believing anything to be true. So as long as I start asserting the concept of justified true belief, He must exist at the same time, because
I understand what
because
you
knowledge
mean.
couldn't exist unless He did exist.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I guess like my question then is like how, but you still, I don't know. I just like, well, I don't really understand like how you can, like, you can justify like having to believe in a God, which I fully respect that. Like, everyone can believe what they want. That's part of living in America, you know. But like I totally understand that. But at the same time, like, how can we say like I can justify my beliefs in this because of this, but I don't respect other people's justifying their own beliefs because of that?
Because it's the difference between relying on limited consciousness for truth and unlimited consciousness for truth.
But isn't your consciousness still limited? Like, you don't know everything.
Right. So that's why I'm putting my faith in the existence of unlimited consciousness.
No, I understand.
So
that doesn't mean that you have it.
All right, I don't have it, but he does. And if he didn't have it, and if he didn't reveal stuff to me, then I couldn't know anything. It would be impossible. So
that's not necessarily true. Because,
yes.
Like, well, because even though like religion has been a crucial part of like the development of like cultures all over the world.
Yeah.
Like just like how we
also
live.
The destruction of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like the destruction of it as well. But at the same time, like part of the way that knowledge gets passed down like that is through people. It's not like God is sending me signals right now telling me to stand on the corner and talk to you. Like I consciously decided to do that.
Well, how can you be justified in believing that people exist?
Because I've grown up with people. Like my whole life I've spent learning from people and being around people and experiencing different cultures and the way that people exist.
But you're not justified in believing those things that you've perceived because you have limited consciousness, and for all you know, your consciousness could be giving you deceptive perceptions, right?
But how do you know that God isn't giving you perceptive deception?
Because if he was, I wouldn't be able to know anything. So that I don't put my faith in that.
But okay, so let's say that God does exist and he's able to give you like the knowledge that you have and what we have right now.
Yes.
But how do you know that what he's created isn't also just a perception deception? You know what I mean? Like,
because
how do you know that he hasn't just created this world to deceive us?
Because knowledge requires belief, and so I don't believe that he did that, because if I did believe it, I wouldn't be able to justify my beliefs. So in order to justify my beliefs, I have to believe that he did. I have to put faith in it. So you're putting faith in your limited consciousness for truth. That could always be wrong. So everybody's operating on faith. I put my faith in what's revealed to limited consciousness from the unlimited omniscient consciousness of God.
But also be wrong?
No, because if it was wrong, then knowledge wouldn't exist.
But then if...
So as soon as you assert the concept of consciousness that perceives reality correctly and knowledge, then an omniscient mind, the omniscient mind must exist to know all the facts and reveal the facts to your non-omniscient mind, because you could always be wrong if it was just your omniscient mind alone.
But at the same time, like, how do you know that, like, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say, like, how do you know whether or not, like, I guess, like, there are people all over the world that do not believe in God, and people all over the world that do. And so a lot of the time, like, those people live in harmony. But then we also, if we're gonna say that, like, people that have a God have, like, a higher truth, or, like, less of a perception deception than people that don't, how can you justify, like, the millions and millions of super intelligent, emotionally capable people that don't believe in God?
And also,
because they actually do believe in God.
History of secular development that is a result of not believing in God.
And it's absurdity.
That is a direct result of pursuing something that's not justified through religion and through a higher power.
Well, everything's religious because a religion is just a belief system that you use to make sense of reality. So atheists are religious, agnostics are religious. They're just putting faith in themselves. They've made themselves their own little god.
Well,
Their highest authority is themselves.
I feel like rather than saying that they made themselves their own little god, it's more of like I would say that I'm an atheist. Like, I don't really believe in a God. And so, like, that's not to say that I think I'm God. Like,
your ultimate authority is yourself and your own mind, right?
Yes, because I am in control of what I do. Like, if I decided I wanted to punch him in the face, I could do that because I control myself.
Well, you don't know that in your worldview, because you could always be wrong, right? Because you don't know that you exist in your worldview.
But how do you know that you exist in yours?
Because I put my faith in what God says, that he created human beings, and I'm justified in believing that I'm a human being that he created. In the Bible, he does say that he created human beings.
God didn't write the Bible.
Yes.
People wrote the Bible.
Well, people inspired by God to write down what he wanted them to write.
Inspired by God doesn't mean that God wrote it. Those are people that gave you that knowledge.
Well, he used them as instruments to write down what he wanted written down. God can do that, right?
At the same time, you don't know that. And
I do know it, because I'm justified in believing it to be true.
I understand that that's something
that's true.
That's part of your belief system, and I get it. I respect that, you know.
Which justifies your worldview, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Just because you have faith.
And
Yeah, it
it's
is
true.
because
well, it means that it's
yes,
true for you.
because knowing anything requires faith.
Well,
You use faith to know things, right?
I do.
Okay, so how can you put faith in limited consciousness to know it's true if you could always be wrong?
But how
You
would
have
you
to
put-
appeal to unlimited consciousness,
But
right?
how can you put faith in an unlimited consciousness that you don't know exists?
Because I know it exists because that's the only thing that could possibly justify beliefs.
But just because you put faith in it doesn't justify it.
That's
Yes,
like
it
people-
does.
that's what- no,
Because
but that's
you must put faith in everything.
But that's like people
Faith is
put
always
faith
required at
in
every
things.
second. You're using faith right now to believe that I exist to communicate with me.
But at the
right?
same time, like people put faith in Hitler and he massacred people. So
Yeah.
like, it doesn't necessarily mean that like
We put faith in all kinds of things that aren't necessary.
yeah, and I think that we're agreeing on that just in different ways.
So, yes, people put faith in false things.
But at the same time, but how if you're gonna say that people put faith in false things, which is very true, people do it all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you can't possibly know for certain that God exists until you die and you go to heaven.
You can?
But you can't, because he's not gonna just pop down into the middle of the road and be like, I'm God, I'm real.
You
So
can have
well,
faith.
the
You can
thing
have
is-
faith that he's real.
You can
and
have
that
faith
that
justify
he's
your
real.
belief in him.
Yeah,
but that
exactly.
But that does not.
But
mean
the
if
thing-
I
any
believed that there
sort
was
of
a
proof
purple
that-
dinosaur in the
that it
sky and I
exists.
put everything, all of my faith into that purple dinosaur, that doesn't mean that it exists.
No, actually, because the thing is, you have to acknowledge that it must exist as soon as you assert the concept of knowledge.
Not
Because
necessarily,
knowledge is
though.
justified true belief, and you cannot be justified in believing anything to be true unless there is the unlimited consciousness of God to reveal to your limited consciousness what is actually true. Because if you just put faith in limited consciousness for truth, you could always be wrong and you can't justify your beliefs. That's why it must be true by the impossibility of the contrary.
Well, let's say that I put my faith in like science, for example. Like
Yeah.
that is what I hold to be true. Because like throughout like the history of mankind, like that's how we figured things out. We figured things out by like conducting experiments and figuring out what's poisonous and what can kill us and all this stuff. And that is why I believe what I believe, is because I hold that to be true. And so
Yes.
like the fact that I hold that to be true doesn't mean that I'm wrong. And the fact that you hold God to be true doesn't mean that you're wrong.
No.
It just means that we disagree.
Well, the thing is, you're putting faith in limited consciousness that doesn't know everything for truth, and you can't be justified in believing that science exists in that
You're
worldview.
putting faith into
Are you
something
doing,
that
are
we
you
don't
doing
know
the exact
exists.
same thing?
No, I'm
except
not. I'm not.
it's directed
I'm
to
not.
another thing?
I'm not appealing to limited consciousness for